Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Super excited to engage with you all and share some of the great work that we've been up to and hopefully continue to engage in. The presentation for today is called Building a Teacher Pipeline, a Focus on Apprenticeships. My name is Dr. Leticia Rojas. I am assistant professor at Pasadena City College and also the teacher prep coordinator for the and teach education classes. But I'll have each of us present just a little bit about ourselves and how we come into this space, and then we'll get us started with apprenticeships and how we came together. But just prior to my teaching at PCC, I was a high school English teacher for 10 years and have been in teacher prep for about 10 years as well. But so much of my effort has been in really working with folks to enter this beautiful profession that is very complicated and very layered, but we know that we need amazing equity-centered teachers to engage in this work. And so I come into this space with that intention and that history. But I'll kind of let Christina, maybe if you can introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Turley, and I currently work as a coordinator of college and careers in Pasadena Unified School District. I too have a teaching background. I actually started as a kindergarten teacher. I taught second, third grade. I was an ELD teacher and coordinator. I've been an assistant principal. So I pretty much had every job in education you can have. I now work as a site coordinator or a district coordinator for all of our sites in PUSD. And a lot of the work I do is in pathways and CTE specifically, which also brings me into the dual enrollment space and all of the exciting things that happen in our pathways.
And then, of course, Audrey.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Audrey Childers. I have a long history in community college administration, and I started in education actually as a Spanish teacher in my early 20s, and then kind of went in a different direction and went into county employment doing workforce development, and came back to education and worked with a Gear Up grant and then a few other things. I was a school counselor for a year and then got into community college administration and have been there until just a couple of years ago. And I started a business called EducateX, and I work with colleges and K-12s on career technical education projects. So I'm thrilled to be working on this project with Pasadena City College and PUSD.
Thank you so much. And we know that there are folks coming into this space from different walks of life. We know that some of you might be students yourselves and thinking about teaching as a profession. Some of you might already be educators, and then some of you might have a long history of kind of teaching and working in administration. So we're hoping to cater this to different folks, but we'd love for you to take a minute and share a little bit about yourself. So if you can go into the Zoom chat, we'll give you a couple of minutes for that. Your name, your gender pronouns, the school or organization that you're affiliated with. If you have a major, if you're a student, or a role, right, that you play in that organization. And if you could take just a couple of sentences of what brought you here, right? So again, your name, your gender pronouns, the school or organization that you're affiliated with, major or role, and what brought you here. And then once you're done with that, if you can just take another second or so, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being very interested, how interested are you in becoming a teacher? Right. So just give you a couple of minutes for that. We'd love to get to know who's in this space with us. Welcome, Simone. Lovely. So I see El Camino here, Whittier, West LA College. folks from Orange County Department of Education, Cal Poly Pomona, lots of different institutions. Teacher credentialing. So again, as you're sharing a little bit about yourself, take a minute also to check out other folks in this space that are coming to this this kind of workshop from different angles, and hopefully, again, we'll give a little bit of something for everyone. So just about 30 more seconds for folks to share. Thank you, Simone. Okay. And so as these answers are trickling in, we'll be looking at the chat again to get a sense of who's in this space. But we're going to go ahead and continue, right? Because we've already started in getting to know each other. But we're going to continue the conversation and really talk through some of the need, right? The careers in education and the teacher pipeline, some of the needs to diversify and grow the teacher pipeline and how that informs our decision making. We'll talk about the partnership that was established between Pasadena Unified School District and Pasadena City College and other partners, because this has been in the works for quite a bit of time. And then specifically, we'll talk about apprenticeship and the benefits of apprenticeship, as well as our specific apprenticeship program that we're building and we're hoping to recruit for. So if there's any of you in this space who are interested in this apprenticeship program that we hope to launch in fall, we definitely are going to try to get your information at the end of today and hoping that we start to really build a strong network of folks. And then we'll talk about next steps and what we see happening. But I'm going to go ahead and take it or have Christina take over.
Thank you, Dr. Rojas. So we wanted to be kind of very clear that we are not single-minded in how we are recruiting for our pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship opportunity. The pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship are in the area of instructional aid. However, we definitely see this as a way for students to kind of get their feet wet in education and potentially branch out to many other areas that we know to be very viable and very fulfilling professions in education. And so this is just a list. I'm not going to read them all to you. But, you know, there's obviously layers and ways for you to move in and around and through each of these spaces if you're interested in elementary education, early education, secondary education, post-secondary education. I mean, there really is a whole world within education for you to explore. We also put, you know, even if this is something you want to do as a secondary profession, right? You could tutor, you could be an instructional aide and do something else. So there really are a lot of opportunities within this field. I went the wrong way, sorry. So a lot of what we're doing is looking at the teacher pipeline and how we can support students in one or more of these areas. So right now in my world, what I do is I help students with that exploration phase and the interest phase of potentially becoming a teacher or potentially becoming any of those professions within the realm of education. So in high school, we offer students dual enrollment courses so they can seek out courses that would give them a little bit of a taste of what it would be like to explore education in their post-secondary endeavors. They can volunteer. We offer our students internships and students who are interested in becoming teachers. We have internships that are very specific to education. They can go and do classroom observations because as an educational institution, it's very easy for us to get students in other classrooms. And we offer them intro courses that they can potentially take in order to, again, see if this is something that they're interested in. And then students typically work their way into very intentional courses and courses that they could maybe use for a degree in education, or that would branch out to something else. So maybe they're slightly interested, so they take a psych course with an education spin and see if that's something that they're interested in, and then they could potentially continue to take more courses that are directly relatable to a degree. And that apprenticeship piece, you see, it kind of lives in the middle, right? It lives in that space after exploration, and you know you're interested in this potentially, and then you can get that real world teaching experience and potentially a mentor in that space that can help you through some of your later coursework. And after you make that decision, then of course comes your degree and your credentialing, and then job placement. And with our apprenticeship program, we are looking specifically for placement in Pasadena Unified. And we definitely see, as I mentioned before, that this instructional aid apprenticeship is really an on-ramp to anything else you would potentially want to do in the education space. And so now I'm going to throw it over to Audrey, and she's going to talk specifically about the apprenticeship program, but I think I have the next slide as well, after I tell you how we kind of got into this world. So Pasadena Unified and Pasadena City College, we have an excellent relationship. About 80% of our students end up going to PCC. So it behooves us to know the programs intimately, to know what our students are going to be offered Pasadena City College, and to then take some of those courses into our high schools through dual enrollment. So within that relationship, we've worked to create pathways that are somewhat seamless. From high school, if students are interested in the arts, they know what they can expect when they go to PCC to fulfill those requirements that they have. And about 2 years ago, we were brought together by the Tournament of Roses, and they kind of set us all down because there was an outside interest in how we recruit and what the pipeline looks like for students in the Pasadena area in particular. And so that brought us to the table together, and we really started creating and thinking about, what does the pipeline look like? How can we align what we're doing? How can we inform students in PUSD what is offered in PCC, and then how they move from PCC to get their credential? And our hope is they come back to us as classroom teachers. So, you know, we decided that we can do some of that work through increasing the courses that we offer in dual enrollment, increasing our recruitment, and enticing students with courses that directly and indirectly relate to education. For example, psychology for developing students, that can directly and indirectly relate to a degree in education, meaning that course is somewhat transferable, right? If students take an English 1 course, that course can transfer into many different majors, but also it can be utilized in an education pathway. So we wanted to make sure to give students options within that space. And then we are thinking about what would be the requirements if we were to offer a pre-apprenticeship. So would our students in PUSD be able to finish the pre-apprenticeship portion? And we were able to explore that because we applied for a pre-apprenticeship grant and an apprenticeship grant, planning grant, and we were able to take a good year and a half and kind of think through all of this work. And this year we have begun to implement pieces of that. So Audrey's going to talk a little bit more about what does that look like, what does a pre-apprenticeship, and then what does the apprenticeship piece look like.
All right, thank you, Dr. Turley. So my name is Audrey Childers, and I'm working on this project with PCC and PUSD. Really happy to be here. So what is an apprenticeship? First of all, an apprenticeship is a partnership between an employer and a local educational agency, or LEA, And in this case, the employer is going to be Pasadena Unified School District, and the LEA is going to be Pasadena City College. The apprenticeship is a combination of on-the-job training that's paid. It's paid by the employer. The apprentices are employed. They have jobs. And there is, in addition to their paid on-the-job training, there is required supplemental instruction, or RSI. That's the curriculum that Pasadena City College is going to offer, and Pasadena Unified School District is going to give the paid OJT. The purpose is to train new journey persons. The registered apprenticeship program can be approved under the Federal Department of Labor, or DOL, and or the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, which is a California entity. We're doing both. So our apprenticeship program has already received DOL approval, and we're working on state approval for both the pre-apprenticeship and the apprenticeship programs. The DOL does not recognize, or does not, I should say, register pre-apprenticeship programs. So on the pre-apprenticeship side, we only are pursuing registration with DAS, but we already have DOL for the apprenticeship. The difference between a pre-apprenticeship and an apprenticeship is that paid OJT. That's the main difference. The pre-apprenticeship consists of coursework, and the LEA and employer kind of work out exactly what that looks like. So that's what Christina was referring to, that we've been working a year and a half to really get those kind of put in place. So that's the pre-apprenticeship has to link to a registered apprenticeship. And so the one that we're developing is going to link to the registered apprenticeship for teacher aide. And the apprenticeship has to be registered with at least one employer. So for us, that's going to be Pasadena Unified. What are the benefits of apprenticeship? And you're going to hear some in future slides, but I'll just give you a beginning. First of all, apprentices are employed in their area of interest. Paid work is part of every apprenticeship. We also have paid internships in some different programs, and the difference between the two really is sort of the level of, not commitment, but interest maybe. For an internship, it's usually less time. You're not necessarily an employee, and it may be paid or unpaid. So it's a really good way to explore, to survey the field, period, right? An apprenticeship, you usually already kind of know, this is really a serious possibility for me. Because again, the purpose of an apprenticeship is to train for a journey level position. And that means the regular status trained person that does that job. More than 90% of apprentices remain employed in the field after they finish their apprenticeship. And that's from DOL statistics right now. Like, you can look that up right now. I do have a caveat though, and that has to do with the next benefit. Apprenticeships are now available for many different occupations. They didn't used to be. It used to be apprenticeships were for construction jobs and firefighting. Those are traditional apprenticeships. And there's a lot of them in the trades as well. But you didn't really hear about a teacher aide apprenticeship. So now the state and the federal, the DOL and the DAS, they're really expanding. And so that's how we got this non-traditional funding to develop this pre-apprenticeship and this apprenticeship, and how we're exploring with a whole lot of other schools how to do these and really be of benefit to our employer partners and our students.
Thank you, Audrey. Again, my name is Leticia Rojas. I'm going to specifically talk about the apprenticeship program that, again, we're building, right? We have a planning grant this year. And so we're meeting across all stakeholders to try to build something that is meaningful, that is going to hopefully increase the teacher pipeline, and specifically targeting the instructional aide position and figuring out what are some ways that we can support someone who is employed by Pasadena Unified School District as an instructional aide, right? That's the occupation, but then is taking courses at Pasadena City College. And so one of the things that we decided early on, not all apprentices, or many actually, don't end in associates or a particular degree. Many end in a certificate. We decided that we wanted to see if we could take our students and our employees, and I'll say students because that's my role as faculty, all the way through an associate's. And one of the benefits of an apprenticeship program is that the biggest, I think, benefit is it has free tuition, right? So along with having a paid position, you also get free tuition through your 2 years at PCC. And we landed on 3 different pathways that students can choose from. One of them is an associate's in elementary education and elementary teaching. One is an associate to transfer in early childhood child development. And then we also recognize there are some students who potentially would want to go into the single subject arena of teaching. And so for those students, they would get the option to pursue a separate major, but they would have to work with an academic counselor to a much higher kind of extent to ensure that they're on the pathway. And I'll speak a little bit more about just different benefits. So specifically, I know Audrey talked about general benefits of an apprenticeship program. I want to speak a little bit about the program that we're envisioning as we're building this and really thinking about who would benefit from this and what are the benefits that we hope to emphasize. The first one being free tuition, right? That your courses are paid for as a student at PCC. You get your associates, and we see you all the way through in hopes that with the partnerships that we'll have with transfer institutions, that then you'll continue on and earn your bachelor's and hopefully a credential or go into another field if you're interested in working with students in a different context. Part of this is going to really have a team of folks that are supporting our apprentices along the way, a dedicated academic counselor and pathway support throughout your entire journey. And some of this will be cohorted courses where you'll take classes with other apprentices, or we'll specify courses that we at least have maybe 5 or 10 apprentices in that particular course so that you feel that you're part of a community walking through these courses. Of course, another great benefit of being an apprentice is on-the-job paid training and experience. We recognize that while internships are incredibly important, if they're not paid, right, that can be very taxing on students who are trying to also have, who are trying to have a living wage or trying to ensure that they're supporting family and their aspirations in education. So our students are getting experience working as instructional aides in Pasadena Unified School District. They'll get the general job benefits, of course, that come with that. And they're paired with a mentor teacher who's going to be providing guidance throughout their journey there. So part of the apprenticeship grant will be to provide some sort of compensation or stipends to the mentor teachers so that it becomes a meaningful relationship with kind of set experiences where they get to support each other and get our apprentices get feedback and guidance along the way. Also, this is an incredibly important benefit and wanted to kind of share this up front, this idea of making a difference in society and students' lives, right? We get to teach, we get to be in this profession, or we get to be instructional aides working directly with students. And even though it's a complicated, profession and there's lots of different layers to it, those of us that are in the profession know how important that direct student contact is. And so the opportunity to work with children, specifically in equity-centered ways, because we are going to shape the program around a social justice equity-centered perspective, and to work with other educators to help transform education and work towards social justice. So the benefit of being in a cohort of students across the next couple of years. So the goal is to hopefully provide this opportunity for 75 students across the next 3 years. A couple other benefits, transfer support. So we'll have the transfer center come and do presentations. We're going to connect to local Cal States. One of the big partners for us is Cal State Los Angeles. So Cal State LA, hoping to have possibilities for not just field work or field trips, I should say, but also panels, having kind of the connection of folks who maybe are already in a teaching credential program there. Opportunities to build networks with other educators. So again, that that benefit of having a network of folks around you, activities and events, webinars with educators who are currently in the classroom, or administrators who are no longer but are working directly with teachers and students. Free professional development events on teaching and learning. And then last but not least, this idea of building teaching skills for diverse student populations. Our coursework, specifically in child development and education, is really tailored to emphasize what does it mean to work with diverse student populations in ways that are transformative. What does it mean to be student-centered, project-based, and really recognize the diversity across race, gender, sexuality, language, ability, and ensure that we're training tomorrow's teachers in these ways. And then learning about literacy-rich, culturally inclusive, and justice-oriented teaching practices, both at the PCC level and then also at the PUSD level, making sure that everything is aligned to, again, the types of equity-centered educators that we're hoping to support. This is just a visual. We're still kind of, again, creating and forming things and figuring out how do we make this great opportunity, how do we kind of be able to showcase what are the various benefits. So again, community of peers, advising and support, academic support, on the job experience, wage progressions, and then other benefits as well. So all of these make up the Educational Aid Apprenticeship Program as we're planning it and as we're hoping to carry it out in fall 2024. So that was a lot of us talking. I'm going to pause here again, and then we'll definitely open up to Q&A and other conversation. And if my co-presenters can look at the chat as well. But if you are interested, and on a scale of 1 to 5, and we'll post the link into the chat, how likely would you take part in an apprenticeship program like this? So if you're a student currently, on a scale of 1 to 5, how likely would you take part in an apprenticeship program like this? Again, that would mean that you would be working as an instructional aide at Pasadena Unified School District, and then taking courses to get your associates at PCC. Go ahead and type into the Zoom chat. And then the following link is an interest form. So we are at the beginning. It's an exciting time. We are gathering information for anybody who is interested so that we can first and foremost start there and talk with folks to see if they make a strong candidate or if they're very much interested in starting with us in the fall of 2024. So we have a little bit of time, but we know in education, everything moves very quickly. So we're trying to at least capture some of your thoughts before the summer hits. So I'll pause there. If folks again can, someone said the link doesn't work. So I'm going to make sure that it's open to folks. So I'll stop sharing here. But we'll pause here and then we'll open it up to Q&A. At this point, if folks have any questions, and then as we're doing that, I'll open up the link and then drop it in. But any questions for us? Again, I know folks are coming from the student, the current student perspective, folks who are maybe trying to build an apprenticeship program yourself, or I think I read somewhere that some of you are also building, or you're in the middle of building an apprenticeship program. So we'll open it up. Feel free to use the mic or the chat. And if my co-presenters can have folks share their questions while I get the form. I think I saw Simone Davis raise their hand.
Go ahead, Simone. Go ahead, Simone. Can you unmute? There you go.
Yes, I'm in Torrance, and because I'm at El Camino College, the apprenticeship program sounds great, but it's only in Pasadena, so I can't go all the way out there. So I was wondering, what was the outlook for the other schools programs, like National University, or anything that's like in southern LA.
That's a great question. There are other teacher aide apprentice programs, and we can certainly look and get back to you. So I'm going to private chat you and ask you for your email, but we will definitely follow up. In addition, I know that there are early childhood education programs, and so that might be, and I know there's some people on the screen that know more about those than I do, so that might be a way in as well. But I'm going to chat you for your email, and so we can follow up. So if you are one of those special people on the screen that knows more about ECE programs, please feel free to chip in.
You guys
I know
mind
that.
for a second?
Yeah, please.
I'm wondering if ELAC is East Los Angeles College closer for Simone?
No, it's still pretty far. It's
still
about
pretty far.
hours away.
El Camino.
Okay, so your closest are Cerritos, Rio. Who else?
Camino. El Camino. would
Oh,
be-
El Camino.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if, I think Rio said that they're starting one, but I do not know if El Camino currently has one or is planning to get one. I'm not sure. Sorry, I was excited about ELAC because I know East Los Angeles is starting one.
Yeah, I'm not sure either if El Camino is starting one, but I know there's quite a bit. Yeah. So I have a question, if I can, Letty. So you guys did not necessarily build like a new pathway, right? You're offering the same pathways that you have, like the elementary transfer program and the ones that you have available now, correct? Yeah.
We didn't, yeah. So we didn't build a new associates, but in this, and I should have mentioned this, throughout this process, one of the benefits is that it really allowed for space to think through curriculum. And in the last, I would say 5 months or so, 2 new things happened at PCC as a result, I would say directly from this partnership. One of them is that I built a new course focused on single subject teaching. We didn't have one at PCC. Most of our courses are all aimed, as you all know, at early childhood, elementary. The hard part is to make sure that it's transferable. A lot of our 4-year institutions have courses that are at the upper division level, right? So, but it was approved and we're ready to provide that specific course to the students who are on the pathway at the single subject level. Another thing that we built was an educational aid certificate. So we didn't have that before. We had something somewhat similar, but a little different in child development. And so this was an impetus for us to do that. And so we were able to get it CTE approved. And recently, just this past month, it was approved by curriculum instruction at PCC. So it is ready to go. And so part of this apprenticeship, even though the goal is to get to the associates, there's a lot of other things, other benchmarks that we're going to have our students and employees try to hit. One of them is to get that educational aid certificate. Another one is to potentially, kind of either take the CBEST if they choose to, or other benchmarks along the way that the district might have for them as they move up the wage progression. So there's going to be, other layers to it. We're also hoping to bring in our career center to provide job support, so that we can really think through how do we support folks as in PUSD as they move up, right, and they promote. But then that specific partnership with the career center is really going to help us with our pre-apprentices. So our pre-apprentices, just to remind folks, these are high school students in Pasadena Unified School District who are taking dual enrollment classes at PCC. One of the things we want to try to provide support in is helping them find summer jobs, right? That could be something that we can at least say, hey, join this apprenticeship program. You're going to get XYZ benefits, but then you'll also get some support in finding a summer job, which I know is incredibly important to our youth. I know is important to me. So so yes, we didn't build a new associates, but we built a couple of things along the way. Yeah. Renee?
As the mom of two high school seniors who are both 17 years old, I have had one who's been able to be employed last summer and this summer, and the other one, because they are under 18, has been struggling for months to get a job. So the fact that you're talking about not just apprenticeships, but even to bridge during summertime for employability, that for many parents will be a selling point for apprenticeships, because otherwise it is very, very hard for a 16 or a 17-year-old to find a job during summertime.
Yeah.
So make sure to beef that up when you have any of your information sessions where parents are included, Letty, because I've
Yeah.
just lived it with one of my kids. And also, here's the other part of it, you guys. When you have a child who is now on the brink of adulthood, who is interested in getting a career, interested in getting a job, and then their very first summer, they spend 3 months looking unsuccessfully for one and having doors shut in their face. And this is a kid who's over 4.0, 3 dual enrollment classes, editor-in-chief of the yearbook, like a highly, like a social kid, highly employable kid. So the fact that you are giving that bridge and that opportunity, it should be a huge selling point, because otherwise I've literally watched my child's, this young adult, her confidence diminish over this, and the anxiety creep up over getting an entry level job.
Yeah. And I think that, kind of same thing goes for folks that are post high school, right? That it is a tricky time. And I think that that's the beauty of teaching. And one of the things we need to, I think, amplify is that, yes, it's about making a difference. It's about all of these different components, and it's also about stability for the most part, right? We know that there's waves that come and go, but I think that young folks are craving making a difference, and then are craving something that is sustainable, reliable, and where they can pursue their education at the same time. Yeah. Simone, did you have is that from before? Did you have another question?
Yes, I do. So how can we encourage our campuses to start this type of program?
Yeah, I love that question. I mean, I think that we're starting to see, at least my experience is we're starting to see a lot more teaching pathways in apprenticeship. We didn't see them 4 or 5 years ago. And so my take is that with every year that these grant cycles come out, we're going to start to see more and more community colleges get into this game. And part of it is also the partnerships, right? It's not just about like, oh, let me apply for a grant. It has to come with a partnership. And I think that's what's really been beneficial for us, is that we were already working on a grow your own pathway for an entire year before we decided, hey, this is another way that we can strengthen our partnership. So I think that makes it authentic, and that makes it more viable than a school by themselves, right? Doing this in isolation and then trying to find employees that will connect to that. So I think you can definitely, I would say, reach out to your education department, your dean at your school. I think that, without knowing too much of behind the scenes, I do think that we're going to see more and more institutions. So I would not be surprised if they're already thinking about it at your institution, and they might just be kind of either in the pathway to get the grant or working through some of the specifics.
Letty, Simone had a question in the chat. Can I still fill out the form even though I can't do the program in Pasadena?
Yeah, I mean, you can fill it out and we can talk, right? Because things change, right? You don't know, we're also trying to figure out like transportation, right? Is that going to be something that we support folks in? I mean, I think nothing is set. So I would still fill it out because it's not the application to be an apprentice. It's just an interest form so that we can then pursue the folks who fill it out and really do advising one-on-one with them. So it is limited to Pasadena area. So you would be an employee at Pasadena Unified School District, and you would be taking classes at PCC. So that's set. But then I would fill it out because then you and I can maybe talk about if this is at all feasible for you, or just to kind of support you in general ways. thank you for that.
I would say also, Simone, some of the good news is that there's always a need for educators, and kind of there's definitely a growing need right now, because believe it or not, this is not a profession everyone wants to go into. So those of us that love it, love it. Those of us who have a passion for it and want to go into it, like there are definitely those out there, and districts are going to be looking for ways to do this type of recruitment. And like someone mentioned before, I think it was Audrey, that apprenticeships for teaching are new. And now that districts know that there is an on-ramp that can happen earlier, I think more districts are going to be looking for ways to partner and make these apprenticeships happen for their own districts. So I would say, if it's not happening this year with your college, definitely reach out, because anything that sparks the the thought of doing it is great. But I think more and more districts are going to be looking for ways to start apprenticeship programs.
Yeah, thank you for that. And just Christina, as you were speaking, one of the things that we didn't highlight is we're still figuring out ways to promote this opportunity, right? It is an exciting opportunity, and it's a lot of building at the beginning, but part of the demographics that we're kind of promoting to are very diverse, right? We've talked about, how do we promote to the recent high school graduate? How do we promote to parent organizations who maybe they want to go back into a career, and instructional aid is an entry point? How do we strategize around promoting to folks who maybe already work at the schools, but they work at the front desk? So we know that many folks have thought about teaching at one point or another in their lives, and that this is a concrete entry point potentially, right? Or into another field of working with young folks, but we want to make sure that we try to cast a wide net and really try to provide this opportunity to folks who maybe sometimes don't are not acknowledged, or don't find opportunities like this all of the time. Yeah, Simone, I'll drop my email in the chat here. Any other questions, folks? Well, thank you so much. I put my email into the chat. Finally got the link to work. So if you can, if you're interested, please fill it out. It's no longer just limited to, I think it was just limited to pasadena.edu. So those are the things, right? We're building as we go. And so figuring out kind of how to promote and taking every opportunity. So we're excited, and thank you for Teach for LA conference for allowing us for this opportunity, because then we can use snippets of this and promote, right? But we'll stick around if folks have any questions. Other than that, our contact information is there. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your Monday, your busy Mondays, and hopefully you all have a very nice evening. Thank you.